Al Jazeera podcasts.
Today, a who's who of Team Trump. Take 2.
Isn't this what Donald Trump said he was going to do to shake things up?
Trump's top cabinet picks and what it means for the United States. That's if everybody can manage to hold on to their seats. I'm Natasha Del Toro, and this is The Take. Ready or not, preparations for the next Trump administration are underway. President-elect Trump has tapped Representative Matt Gaetz to run the Department of Justice.
Testimony emerging on Friday from a woman who says she saw Gaetz, quote, having sex with a minor at a house party in Orlando in 2017.
Representative Tulsi Gabbard is Trump's pick to be the Director of National Intelligence.
Tulsi Gabbard, of course, is somebody who rose to prominence back in 2017 when she took a secret trip to Syria.
And it's not just Trump's cabinet choices that have Washington abuzz. Trump's picking up a new so-called department, too.
Trump tapping Tesla CEO Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead a, quote, Department of Government Efficiency.
So what does this start mean for the second coming of President Donald Trump's United States?
My name is Matthew Bartlett. I'm originally from New Hampshire. I'm a Republican strategist and actually served as a Donald Trump appointee at the State Department in the first term. And now I reside here in Washington, D.C., Sin City, a town that is now preparing for Donald J. Trump. Take 2.
Round 2. One of the reasons why we're talking to you today, you're a GOP strategist, and because you've already, this isn't your first rodeo with the Trump administration, maybe you can talk to us a little bit more about your experience there.
Listen, the honor of my lifetime to work at the State Department, to serve my country. And I was appointed to the State Department to work on the global HIV/AIDS program known as PEPFAR. Just an amazing thing. 20 years and 25 million lives the United States has saved from HIV/AIDS around the world. Yay. After that, I went and became a comms director for an entire bureau, educational, cultural affairs. And then resigned on January 6th, walking home in front of the Capitol. A quick little email.
Resigned.
Mr. Secretary. Yeah, hereby resign immediately.
That was sort of a U-turn.
Yeah, well, it was a weird turn of events. That was my tour of duty at the State Department.
Wow. And now here we are in a second Trump administration. I think many of us who covered Trump the first time around in the media, regardless of whether it's a right-leaning media outlet or left-leaning media outlet, can pretty much all agree that there's a lot of news that comes out of a Trump administration. I mean, some people have called it like a tornado. He's already making shockwaves with some of his cabinet picks. So I was wondering, what do you think his cabinet choices so far tell us about what we can expect in a second Trump term?
Yeah, Natasha. I mean, this has been, Operation Warp Speed, right? He's just firing off names, cabinet secretaries, nominees, like no other president, except for maybe himself. All of these nominees, so these are people that he proposes to head very important agencies, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, many, many departments and agencies. They're all Trump in so much as, they either are cerebral picks that he knows what person he wants to implement his vision, his policy, or they are guttural picks. Donald Trump flying by the seat of his pants. You look good on Fox. You sound even better, and central casting, and we're gonna put you forward. And that's what he's been doing. But let's also remember that in order for many of these people to get into their positions, they need to be confirmed by the United States Senate. So you need 50 votes in the United States Senate. Right now, Republicans have 53 seats. So you would think all of his nominees, great. You need 50, you have 53. Some of these are very problematic. There's probably 5 right now that are troubled, on thin ice. Some may get through, some may not. So
yeah, let's talk
the soap
about
opera begins.
The soap opera begins. Let's talk about some of these more sort of controversial picks.
Sure. So I call them the big five, right? You have Kristi Noem. She's a former congresswoman and the current governor of South Dakota. She's been proposed for Homeland Security. No real Homeland Security experience, but a former member of Congress and a governor. There's some trust there. Pete Hegseth, who is a former Bronze Star soldier, a decorated veteran who has worked in the veteran community, but is mostly known for being a Fox News host. He is now up for defense secretary. He also has some accusations that are coming out in the press about some NDAs and sexual allegations, sexual assault allegations, candidly. So that's an interesting one there. And then going on.
Tulsi Gabbard is another one.
Tulsi Gabbard, again, a Democrat who ran for president against Donald Trump in 2020, right? Now becoming a Republican, now being in charge of, a lot of intelligence for the United States. And this is a very sensitive spot that she'd be in. I think there's some on the right looking at some of her comments, even some on the left looking at her previous comments, whether it's Ukraine or other sensitive areas, saying, is this the right person?
Yeah. I mean, and I know that in her case, she's been accused of spreading Russian disinformation, and has also, interestingly, been very critical of Donald Trump and his approach to the Middle East, portraying him as dangerous in the past. So that's an interesting pick. And moving along with the list of some of these sort of top five.
Now the two left, right? RFK Jr. If Donald Trump is something of a rare bird in American politics, RFK Jr. might be something of an odd duck. I mean, this is a guy who questions some of the science, and maybe some of this is established science, vaccines.
Kennedy says he's not against vaccines.
Oh, I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccines. I've never been anti-vaccine.
In fact, he's frequently pushed misleading and false claims about vaccines.
There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
But then, is just like, hey, look around at America. Is there something that could be possibly wrong related to obesity, related to our food? And why is every other commercial in America a pharmaceutical commercial? Why do we consume more pharmaceuticals in this country than any other? I don't know. Those might be okay questions to ask.
But interesting then to see him in a photograph with Trump eating a McDonald's hamburger recently. I don't know if you saw that picture. I was like,
Yeah. They even asked the Speaker of the House, did RFK pose with the food or did he eat it? And the reporting was like, no, he ate some of it. So yeah, it's just a wild time. You know what I mean?
It's a wild time. Are you sort of thinking like, oh boy, here we go again?
I mean, listen, Marco Rubio, and let me just say, I've worked with his office since before he was even in office in 2010. A true champion of the world's poorest people. This is a guy that always prioritized global health, poverty, U.S. efforts to save lives around the world. Yay. So very excited for that. Even some Democrats, or maybe even many Democrats, have said, not my choice as a Democrat, but as far as a Republican pick for Secretary of State, Marco, we applaud you. We wish you well and send you off to Foggy Bottom.
You didn't even talk about Matt Gaetz.
Well, he's the last of the big five, right? Probably the most controversial.
Yeah.
So, as many people know already, this is a firebrand out of Florida, a young Donald Trump acolyte who has now been proposed to be the Attorney General. Now, let's just do a little scene setting here. Donald Trump has always had tensions with his Attorney General, right?
Jeff Sessions.
His first, right. His first Attorney General. The only guy who backed him in 2015, he was just like, hey, you couldn't stand the guy. You know what I mean? I always used to say, why is Donald Trump not a dictator? If he was, he would have sent Jeff Sessions to Gitmo, right? Hated the man, despised the man, thought that the Attorney General should be his own personal attorney. So tensions, even with Bill Barr. Now we have Matt Gaetz, whose biggest experience with the Justice Department has been that he's been investigated by the Justice Department for some very, very serious personal behavior allegations.
I mean, he's currently under, or well, he was until very recently, under a House Ethics Committee investigation for alleged involvement in sex trafficking of a minor and illicit drug use.
There was an ongoing ethics investigation into an alleged sex scandal, and the results of that report have not been released.
I mean, is this the kind of choice that should be the nation's top cop?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the most shocking. Matt Gaetz does not have, outside of the true base, does not have a lot of friends in this town. Sometimes that's a good thing, right? People don't want that. People want a disruptor. But the behavioral stuff, again, should these even be out of anyone who could serve the Justice Department? Is this somebody who you even want the question to be asked? Equally as important is the job, right? There have been accusations that the Justice Department has been used to go after Donald Trump. Let me tell you, if this guy's name was Donald Smith, Joe Trump, none of these charges would be brought, but they went after him. Some people agree, some people disagree, but the mindset of, okay, now it's our term to use the Justice Department to go after political, opponents is very, very troublesome, is very, very worrisome.
I wonder, do these things even matter to the American public anymore? Are people caring when they hear that there are problems such as sexual assault allegations against some of these picks, and that those are picks that Trump is making, who obviously has a lot of baggage in that same area?
Yeah, more baggage than a 747.
Yeah, more baggage than a 747, that's right. So what are you hearing in D.C. about the push to get them confirmed? Yeah,
Natasha, that is the conversation happening right now. That is the crux of this town right now. Donald Trump, with the big five, some of these questionable, maybe problematic nominees, is daring the United States Senate, specifically the Republican caucus, saying, these are my nominees and I expect you to approve them. Let's remember, the United States Senate does not have to. We might be set up for one heck of a fight here. Donald Trump is calling Republican senators right now, giving a full court press. Let's remember, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden's pick for the attorney general, got 70 votes. So do you want to be a Republican senator and they say you voted for Joe Biden's attorney general, but you're not going to vote for Donald Trump's? A hard question. And again, ultimately, many of these senators, will want to work with the president on certain issues, on their priorities. There'll be some horse trading there, but also they work with the president, not for the president. Certainly with Gaetz, there's been reports that almost 30 members of the Republican caucus might be prepared to spike him. We will see what happens, but that is the tension of this town right now.
More from a former Trump appointee on Trump's cabinet picks. That's after the break. Matthew, it's not just the cabinet that Trump is choosing that's causing shockwaves. He's also created two new positions within what he's calling the Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, which is
Doge. There you go.
Elon Musk's favorite cryptocurrency. We should also say that this department, which is actually a commission, it's going to be headed by Elon Musk and by Vivek Ramaswamy. What do we know about Doge?
Not much. It's entertaining right now. It's catching a lot of people's eye. But let's, like you just said, Natasha, this is not a government. This is a commission, right? This is two very interesting people that have been highly successful in the private sector, are now going to look at the United States federal government and say, where can we find efficiencies? Great. I think Democratic Senator Chris Coons yesterday said, go to it, please. We wish you luck. It's a very hard thing to do. We'll see what they come up with, if they come up with something.
One thing that Vivek Ramaswamy has said that he wants to do is he wants to eliminate the Department of Education, the FBI, the Internal Revenue Service, by executive order. He said that the federal workforce should be cut by 75% in a mass layoff. I mean, is that how does that strike you when you hear that, someone who lives in Washington, D.C.?
That is rhetoric from the campaign, from a candidate that wants attention and to catch fire. And maybe he did that. But this is not policy proposals that are recommended to the president, or more importantly, from the president. Listen, Donald Trump is actually looking at the Department of Education. The Department of Education was created in 1980 by Jimmy Carter. I'm not sure that we can look back and say, boy, since we started the department, education's doing so much better, right? So again, a disruptor, a rethinking of education, I think is a wonderful thing. The IRS, Natasha, I'm sure you pay taxes. I do too. It's one of those things where it's like, you owe us money. How much money? I don't know. But if you get it wrong, you're going to jail. And everybody does their taxes and they send it in. And, and they're like, is this correct? And you go, I think so. I hope so. I have a college degree, but I can't tell you the tax code. Is there a notion of rethinking how we do taxes here? Not a bad idea. But again, the overall notion of the destruction of our government, preposterous.
So, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of in favor of some of these proposed changes. But are you saying that you don't believe Vivek Ramaswamy when he says he wants to make these cuts to Department of Education or lay off, 75% of the federal workforce?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Vivek is an interesting cat. But again, this is largely rhetoric that you could almost find any Republican saying over the past 20 years. So, it's not policy recommendations yet.
That was one of the things, though, with the first Trump administration, is that people often said, oh, this is rhetoric, he doesn't mean it. And then he would deliver on it. And we saw this sort of happening again and again.
The U.S. Embassy is now in Jerusalem. He did increase spending on the U.S. military, and if he didn't defeat ISIS under Trump, the terror group has weakened significantly. Extra controversially, as promised, Trump did restrict travel to America from certain Muslim-majority countries.
If Vivek Ramaswamy was going to try to do something like this, do you think there would be pushback?
I mean, it depends, right? The notion of, again, the one you said that is the biggest one that I think people are looking at and saying, is the Department of Education. And the notion of rethinking things is what we are doing, is that working? Is that serving our country?
75% of the federal workforce.
That part is crazy talk. That part's never going to happen. You're not going to fire 75% of the workforce.
And mass deportations, day one.
Well, that one, that's not Vivek. That's Donald Trump. He has spoken up. He has made it very clear about his issues on immigration for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I would expect that there's going to be some sort of action there.
And finally, Matthew, do you think that this team that Trump is building is going to be working together to do the bidding of the president? Or do you think it's going to be more like a very long season of the reality show that he once hosted, The Apprentice, where people are just, waiting to see if they can keep their job or if they're going to be fired, which is kind of what we saw during the first term. A lot of people weren't able to last very long.
Yeah, both, right? It's going to be a mix. We will see what happens. Listen, there's many, many challenges around the world and even here at home. And how some of these cabinet members, if they make it in, perform will be up to, again, criticism from the public or from the president. Many people looked at the last 4 years and could not fathom why some of these people were kept in place. What are you doing? If you're making a mistake, if the public isn't happy, change something. Realize that. That's the good side to Donald Trump. I don't like it. Don't tell me that, John Bolton, you want to bomb Iran now? I don't. Get out. That's refreshing. some of the soap opera stuff, some of the New York City, he was my friend, now I hate him, he was the best, now he's the, that's going to be a lot of DC nonsense. That's some of the downside that comes with Trump. Again, there's good side. You're performing well. Congratulations. Thank you for working for America. Keep at it. You're not, pack your stuff and get out.
Maybe thinking about this next term. I know there's a lot of fears about democracy, and even that maybe there'll be something like another January 6th that happens. Is that a fear that you have? I mean, you took a very hard stand. You resigned from a position that you clearly loved. So do you worry about that?
Let's just be clear here. That was the easiest thing. I've done some hard things in life. That was resigning on January 6th was one of the easiest. And it was over. So, is there a fear of, there's always going to be, right? No matter what, we live in an uncertain world. There's always going to be a fear. We live in a very deeply divided country, and you want to be sensitive to people's feelings around, if the right feels vindicated and liberated, I think the left feels, targeted and concerned. And some of those concerns, are well-founded, and that's what makes our country great, is that public discourse. And you would hope that, some of the worst fears may never come to fruition. Donald Trump is a lame duck president. There are 4 years. We have elections. 4 years of Trump. Then Democrats can put up their nominee. Republicans could put up J.D. Vance or somebody else. But Donald Trump is a lame duck president. 4 years.
Unless he changes the rules.
Well, good luck. Anything's possible, right? But I wouldn't count on that one.
And that's The Take. What do you want to know about this next Trump administration? Tell us in the comments below. And if you want to catch more episodes like this one, be sure that you're following our YouTube playlist. That's where you're going to find all of our recent content, updated regularly so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the loop with all things Al Jazeera English. Malika Bilal will be back tomorrow.